Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shay Ivy Show. I do have my hair clipped back today because it was kind of annoying me. Given that I'm going to Disneyland this month, I wanted to do a couple videos related to that. So there's today's video, which are some tips and tricks for your next Disney trip, and then there's going to be next week's video where I'm taking a couple of Disney quizzes, Disney related quizzes. But as I said, this video specifically is 20 tips and tricks for your next Disney trip. This is by no means an end-all be-all type of a video or a one-size-fits-all type of video. These are just tips and tricks that I try to use if possible and where possible whenever I'm at Disney, and these I feel are things that might help you or your group who's going to Disney. I really tried to keep these more Disney park centered rather than Disneyland specific, and I tried to phrase them as such, but a lot of my experience does come from Disneyland. But with all that said, here are 20 tips and tricks to try to utilize for your next Disney trip. First and foremost is to try to get there as early as possible, especially during the seasonal holidays and breaks. That means like spring break, summer break, around Halloween, around Easter. Try to get there as early as possible, maybe even rope drop if that's a possibility for you. The next tip is to have a portable charger that you bring from home, or to get a portable charger from one of the kiosks, the portable charger kiosks. And for the portable charger kiosks at the parks, it's a one-time purchase, and then once the portable charger you were using is dead, you can put it back in the kiosk and to get a new one, and you don't have to repurchase. But I do feel like getting one from the parks can be a little bit tricky, especially when you're home and like you take it home, because you don't really have a charger for it. You can't really like plug it into an outlet or your computer to charge it, whereas if you have a portable charger that you just have at home, then that's something that you can easily charge at home. The next tip is to bring hygiene products. This includes sunscreen, deodorant, hand sanitizer, hand wipes, feminine care products. This can also include like anything you need to clean off your glasses, or any eye drops, or stuff you may need to rinse off your contacts if you wear glasses or contacts. But have hygiene products so that you can have them handy if something happens. The next tip is to have a change of clothes for comfort, even if it won't be cold later in the day. Have a change of clothes to change into later in the day for comfort, especially for Disney bounding and wearing kind of something a little bit fancier, like a nice dress or a nice top and pants. Because honestly, like the past couple of times that I've gone to Disneyland and California Adventure, having a change of clothes, having something to change into later in the day really made the evening portion of my day that much more comfortable and happy, because I was like, I'm comfortable. I don't necessarily need to be looking 100% dapper, you know, but I'm comfortable. I'm still kind of in Disney gear. This next tip does kind of blend into the previous tips, and that is to have extras. Have extras of your hygiene products. Have an extra pair of socks, an extra pair of shoes. And again, a lot of this is about comfort and necessity. The next tip also helps out with the previous tips, and that is to rent a locker if possible. And I don't know what the locker situation is at other Disney theme parks, but for Disneyland, the lockers are closer to the Disneyland entrance, but it is still so helpful to utilize lockers, because there you can have your extra change of clothes, your extra hygiene products. Also in the locker, you can put in any souvenirs you buy. Like let's say halfway through the day, you're already buying some souvenirs. You can head out to the lockers, put the souvenirs you buy into the locker so that you're not carrying them around and you're really only carrying what you'll need to access. The next tip is to plan regular breaks, and this may not seem necessary, especially like if you're older, like an adult or a teenager. It doesn't necessarily have to be like at specific times of the day, but planning to take regular breaks where you sit down, maybe grab a small bite to eat or a drink, can really help, because even adults can overextend themselves in the matter of half a day. It's not just the children having tantrums because they're tired or hungry, it's adults too. So take regular breaks so that you can check in with yourself and see how you're doing and see if you need a longer break or something to eat or drink. The next tip is, I feel like like it's kind of self-explanatory, but it isn't always. It's to have a refillable water bottle. That can really help, because that way if you're maybe not near a kiosk that has water handy, you can just fill it up at a nearby water fountain. The next tip also may seem a little bit redundant, but that is to remember to eat. And that does lead into the tip where I said to plan breaks when necessary. I know firsthand from going to places like Disneyland and going to conventions that sometimes you forget to eat, and then you're running on fumes and running on adrenaline, and then once you kind of start slowing down, it's like you hit a wall and you start getting hangry, maybe a little bit grumpy, and we don't want that at Disney theme parks. So remember to eat, remember to nourish yourself, remember to drink water. The next tip is to bring some snacks from home, because sometimes you don't always want to be spending too much money on snacks, especially if you want to save more for souvenirs, and especially if you're not necessarily really close to any of the Disney theme parks. You might want to be spending a little bit more on souvenirs rather than meals and snacks. And this way too, if you're in the middle of a line and can't get out easily to go grab a snack from a kiosk or store, this way you can have something like in your bags so that you can just reach in, grab it, and have a little bite to eat if you're a little bit hungry in the line. And another related tip, another money saving food related tip, is that if you want to try to save a little bit more money to spend on souvenirs, for example, you can bring a meal from home that's a little bit cheaper, or buy a little bit of a cheaper meal from a nearby grocery store, and then plan to have that as one of the meals, and then the other meal, either lunch or dinner, can be at the park, in the park. The next tip is to mobile order whenever possible. This can be food, this can be stuff at the stores, because I know a lot of the Disney stores do mobile orders, but mobile order whenever possible, because that can help skip a little bit of the line, the wait line, and that way too it's a little bit quicker, I've noticed, when you mobile order, and it's so easy to use and get the hang of. The next tip, another food related tip, is to have a rough idea of what you want to eat at the park, both in terms of snacks and meals, what you want to pay for in terms of food at the park. And that can be like popcorn, churros, pretzels. And something that my friend and I have done is that we occasionally will make a note in the notes app on our phones, share it with each other, and keep track of the foods we want to try, and kind of keep track of the prices too. And that way too, you're not kind of standing around hungry wondering what to eat. You have some sort of like reference to refer to once you get hungry, and it's like, okay, this is kind of what we had in mind for food. What are we feeling like from this list? The next tip is for the spending money aspect, and that is to have a set budget for yourself, and then give yourself a little bit of a window that you can go into if needed. And this isn't to say that you should go into the window you give yourself. Have your set budget, let's say like $200. The budget window can be $50, so have $250 available for yourself, but only plan to spend $200. And then if you really need to, you can start going into the extra $50 window. Having that budget and then the window on top of that can really help. But again, don't plan to go over the budget. I feel like this one's kind of obvious, and at this point most people do this, but have the Disney Park app that you're at available and accessible, easily accessible on your phone, whether it's Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, Shanghai Disney, Tokyo Disney, Disney Sea, Hong Kong Disney, whatever park you're at, have the app, have the corresponding app easily accessible on your phone, so that you can refer to wait times, where things are. If possible, if within the budget that you have, utilize Disney Genie Plus. And this is something that I really hate about the recent updates, that especially under Bob Chapek. And even then, like, I know at Disney California Adventure, the Radiator Racers ride in Cars Land, the Lightning Lane isn't even included in Disney Genie Plus. Like, you have to pay for that Lightning Lane specifically, which is stupid. But this is a tip I highly recommend utilizing if it's within your budget. The next tip is to have something to do during the longer wait times, during the longer lines, and it can be games like Disney Play, Disney Tsum Tsum, Disney Emoji Blitz. It can be Heads Up, because I know Heads Up has at least one Disney Parks game. It can be something as simple as having like ebooks, like the Kindle Kindle app or Hoopla or Libby, where you can access ebooks and audiobooks. I don't really recommend audiobooks at a Disney theme park though. It can be something as simple as reading an ebook in line, but give yourself something to do in line so that the time can go a little bit quicker, or seem to go a little bit quicker. The next couple of tips are related to phone and phone storage, phone space. The first one is to put your phone on low power mode, or the equivalent of that. I know it's low power mode on the iPhone, because that can help save a little bit of power, and then your phone will actively try to save power or not use as much. For the next tip, I will try to include a screen recording of what I mean, at least for the iPhone, and that is to have the background app refresh and the background sounds off. And this was something I actually learned recently, and that can also take up a little bit of power and add to your phone being used and using battery. Turn that off. And then the last tip, tip number 20, we made it through, is to clear up as much space on your phone as possible. Transfer your photos to another device so you can still have your photos, and delete any old messages, clear out recent calls, clear out recent voicemails and delete them, but try to clear out as much space as possible on your phone, because that can also take some battery, and it can also clear up some more space for more photos and videos. And if you have the TikTok app, you can actually clear up data. Try to clear up as much space as possible on your phone. So that is it for this video. If you have any tips and tricks and recommendations for a Disney theme park trip, please comment down below with what yours are, because honestly we could use a lot of these. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in next week's video.